It starts without warning. A sudden jolt deep in your chest. Then that sound, sharp, involuntary, completely beyond your control. You try to stop it. You hold your breath. You drink water from the wrong side of the glass. Someone nearby suggests you need a fright. And the hiccups continue, indifferent to all of it. Most people experience this hundreds of times throughout their lives. Almost nobody knows what is actually happening when they do. Here is what most people get wrong. A hiccup is not a glitch, not random noise from a tired body. It is a precisely coordinated reflex involving multiple nerves, a large muscle you never consciously control, and a split-second timing event that has its own clinical name. And the sound that comes out? It isn't what you think it is.
Hidden directly beneath your lungs is one of the hardest working muscles in your body, the diaphragm. Every breath you take is powered by this large, dome-shaped muscle. When it contracts, it flattens downward, expanding the chest cavity and pulling air in. When it relaxes, the lungs recoil and air flows out. 15 to 20 times every minute, automatically, continuously, without any conscious input from you. The diaphragm receives its instructions primarily through the phrenic nerve, an unusually long nerve that originates near the base of the neck and travels all the way down through the chest to reach its target. When hiccups begin, the phrenic nerve fires an abrupt, uncoordinated signal. The diaphragm contracts sharply, faster than a normal breath, without any intention on your part. Air rushes toward the lungs.
And at exactly that moment, the glottis, the opening between your vocal cords, snaps shut. That closure is what produces the sound. The hic is not the breath. It is the collision between incoming air and a vocal cord that closed a fraction of a second too early. Clinically, this reflex is called the singultus, from a Latin word meaning a gasp or a sob. An involuntary spasm of the diaphragm followed by sudden glottic closure. Which immediately raises the question nobody stops to ask. What caused the phrenic nerve to misfire in the first place? Before the answer, consider that the phrenic nerve travels from your neck to your diaphragm, a path that passes directly alongside the heart, the lungs, and the esophagus. It is one of the most exposed nerves in the body, which means almost anything in that neighborhood can disturb it. The hiccup reflex is coordinated by a circuit involving the brainstem, the phrenic nerve, and the vagus nerve, one of the longest nerves in the human body, running from the brainstem through the chest and deep into the abdomen, continuously monitoring the digestive system. When the stomach expands rapidly, from eating too quickly, swallowing air, or carbonated drinks, the distension sends signals through the vagus nerve that can stimulate the reflex arc. When the esophagus is irritated by hot food, spicy substances, or acid reflux, similar signals travel the same pathway toward the brainstem. Sudden temperature changes and certain medications are also documented triggers in clinical literature. What these triggers appear to share is a common effect. They disturb either the vagus nerve or the brainstem networks coordinating the reflex. But here is what most explanations overlook entirely. In the vast majority of cases, the reflex terminates on its own, usually within minutes, without any intervention at all. The brainstem regulates and ends the reflex automatically, which means that when a remedy appears to work, it may simply be coinciding with something that was already about to happen. Here is a question worth sitting with. If the brainstem is already solving the problem on its own, why do remedies feel so convincingly effective? The answer is one of the oldest traps in medicine. When two events happen close together in time, the human mind instinctively links them as cause and effect. You held your breath, the hiccups stopped. The breath held them. Except the evidence suggests otherwise. Hold your breath. Drink water slowly.
breathe into a paper bag. These methods exist across virtually every culture on Earth.
The biological reasoning behind breath holding and rebreathing is that raising carbon dioxide levels in the blood may suppress the reflex through effects on brainstem respiratory centers. There is biological plausibility to that idea, but current evidence does not establish that any commonly used home remedy is meaningfully more effective than simply waiting, in part because most episodes resolve spontaneously within a similar time frame, regardless of what the person does. Separating a remedy from a coincidence in this case is genuinely difficult. Now, there is one thing the evidence does clearly support. If hiccups persist beyond 48 hours, medical evaluation is warranted. Because at that threshold, something has changed. Most people assume hiccups are always trivial. That assumption does not hold beyond 48 hours. Hiccups lasting more than 48 hours are clinically classified as persistent. Those continuing beyond 1 month are termed intractable. Imagine a reflex that simply does not stop for weeks. These cases are uncommon, but when they occur, they are medically significant, interfering with sleep, eating, and daily function in ways most people would never anticipate. Documented causes include conditions affecting the central nervous system, structural irritation or compression of the phrenic or vagus nerve, metabolic disturbances such as kidney dysfunction or electrolyte imbalance, gastrointestinal conditions, and certain medications, particularly some anesthetics, corticosteroids, and chemotherapy agents. When an underlying cause is identified, treating it typically resolves the hiccups. When no cause is found, pharmacological options may be considered, though the evidence base for specific medications remains under active investigation. The same reflex most people dismiss after 30 seconds can, under specific medical conditions, require clinical intervention to stop. Now, the most surprising fact in this entire documentary: you began hiccuping before you were born. Fetal hiccups are detectable by ultrasound as early as the first trimester, weeks before breathing itself begins. The reflex is running before the lungs have ever taken a breath. Newborns hiccup significantly more often than adults. The frequency decreases gradually as the nervous system matures. Research indicates that premature infants spend a notably larger proportion of time hiccuping than full-term infants, and that the frequency declines as the brainstem and its respiratory regulatory systems develop. Current evidence suggests this pattern may be associated with the maturation of the neural circuits responsible for breathing regulation, though what precise role, if any, fetal and neonatal hiccuping plays in that process remains under active scientific investigation. What is established is this: the reflex is present and active before independent breathing has begun, placing it earlier in human development than most people would ever consider. A hiccup lasts less than a second, but behind that second is a circuit spanning the brainstem, the cervical spine, the chest, and the abdomen, coordinating a muscle, 2 nerves, and a pair of vocal cords in a sequence timed to the millisecond. Most episodes produce dozens of these events in rapid succession. Then, without any instruction from you, the brainstem quietly terminates the reflex. Breathing returns to its normal rhythm. No assistance required, no conscious decision made. And so, the next time it starts without warning. The sudden jolt, that sound you didn't choose to make, the glass of water you turned upside down, the remedy you were certain would work. All of it was already being handled by a circuit that was running before your first breath, that has been running ever since. And that, in almost every case, resolves the problem before you even think to try. If you're curious about how your mind and our world really works, subscribe to Why Decoded. Because everything has a reason. We just haven't decoded all of them yet.